Dr. Marta Sportelli, the CEO of the Malta Chamber, to give her opening remarks.
So good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Malta Chamber. It is indeed our pleasure to be kicking off the business sessions that we're starting off today. It took us quite a number of months to get here, a number of months of hard work, led by the chairperson of the Family Business Thematic Committee, Silvan Mifsud. A big thanks also goes to Dr. Joe Gerada from the Family Business Office, and I would also like to thank our sponsor, the sponsor of this committee, which is BNF Bank. Why did we feel that we need to set up a thematic committee which focuses on family businesses? The reason is very simple, that the majority of the companies in Malta, the majority of successful companies in Malta are indeed family businesses. Some are family businesses within the definition of the law, but some are family businesses in terms of what we understand by family businesses. And in fact, the scope of this exercise is precisely to help you to understand the difference between family business at law and what we understand by family business, and also to help and to guide you on how to make your family business even more efficient. So as Daniel rightly pointed out, we have 7 sessions in all, which will be touching various different subjects. The first one will be highlighting the differences between family businesses and other businesses. What are the peculiarities of the family businesses? What makes them so special? What makes them different from the rest? The second session will be about designing a family business, how to go about with ownership, with transfers, etc. The third point, and this is a very important point, particularly when it comes to family business, it's on governance structures. As always happens when you're in a family, we tend to put aside or ignore governance structures, but governance structures are very important to ensure success, whether it's football, whether it's tennis, whether it's a business, whether it's a small business or a big business. The fourth session will be focusing on strategy. The fifth one will be on how to ensure better communication, both internally and even externally. Particularly family businesses need to make sure that they communicate internally and between themselves even better than in a business which is not traditionally known as a family business. The reason being that when you're in a family business, sometimes you tend to discuss business from Monday to Sunday, even whilst you're at the dinner table. That's good, but it does not mean that it should only be done that way. The sixth session will be about succession planning into taking forward your business. And last but not least is dealing with any conflict that might arise. I know that time is precious. I do not want to take up much of your time, and I'll leave you in the good hands of, with your permission, I'll call you Silvan, to start off his lessons. Thank you once again for coming to the Malta Chamber. Any questions that you might have, not only on this subject matter, but even on any other issue that the Malta Chamber might be able to tackle, please come forward. We're here to help you and to serve you. Keep in mind that we are the biggest lobby group on the island representing business. We represent 75% of private employment on the island. So thank you.
So, hello, and thanks for coming. And also, I would like to welcome all the other ones that are joining us online for this session. My name is Silvan, and my journey with family businesses started 11 years ago. I left a semi-public at the time corporation, and I joined the family business. One of the representatives of the family business is here with us today. only to then also sit on the board of directors of that family business, to then join my own family business, a business that was run by my family, to then go into consulting, and for the past 4.5 years, almost 5, now I've been advising almost full-time various family businesses. So that has been my 11-year journey so far when it comes to family businesses. And as Martes rightly said, one of the first areas as an introduction into today's first session is understanding why are we speaking about family businesses in the first place? What makes family businesses distinct and different from any other type of business, all right? Many times there are a lot of misconceptions out there about family businesses. Some say they're good businesses. A lot of people say, oh, you're going to work in a family business, you know. And to be honest, I've seen a lot of powers in family businesses. They have a lot of good in them. They have a lot of what we call the power to create, the power to sustain, okay? Many times because they have a long-term view of how to create wealth, okay? They're not just interested in immediate results, but they have a little bit more patience, just a tiny bit more patience than traditional businesses or bigger businesses. But obviously they have, as we will see later on, the power to destroy. Because whilst family businesses invest for the long term and grow together, then they are, at their worst, plagued by conflict, as I wrote there. They destroy business value, many times because of conflict. One of the greatest reasons why I give family businesses not to pursue conflict endlessly, and everyone takes his fair share of what we call in Maltese raġun, is because at the end of the day, everyone is going to be a loser. If the business goes under, there are no winners. You know, there are just losers. Okay, and many times they destroy wealth, they destroy jobs, and in the worst case of scenarios, they also destroy family relationships. Okay, so that is the downside of family businesses. Research clearly shows that the family businesses that make it, and that isn't much, that make it beyond the second, the third, and go down even to the fourth, fifth, and sixth generation. This is not an easy task, right? It's a lot of work, and not just technical work, a lot of emotional work as well, okay? Those that are open, those that are keen on learning. Many a times, I always use this comparison when I describe family businesses. Have you ever seen the film Titanic? I mean, come on, okay? What do they do down there? You know, in the engine room, what are they doing? You know, this was a steam-engined ship, okay? They are literally shifting coal, okay? Now, I compare family businesses in spending a lot of their time, as much as possible, to become as efficient as possible to shift coal, okay? But rarely does anyone ever decide to go on the top of the ship, you know, on the front of the ship or on the top level to see where the hell this ship is going, okay? Where is it heading, okay? If it's going, you know, to hit an iceberg, if it's going to, you know, in the right direction, if it's going to enter into a storm, whatever the case, okay? And many a times, one of the biggest problems is that they are not in tune, they are not looking around, they are not seeing what's happening around them, okay? Recently, I wrote an article about it. There was the case of the local village bakers, you know, that they have big problems, okay? No one wants to buy their bread. Yes, but aren't they asking, why is it that they don't want to buy our bread? Is it just because, suddenly the cost of wheat and the cost of flour is going up, although until now it's still heavily subsidized? Or is it because trends in food consumption when it comes to bread have changed and you have not changed with it? People are buying other types of bread, not just the Maltese loaf of bread. And the business model of people buying bread from a hooting van has long gone by, okay? Because today I can go buy bread at 9 o'clock in the evening from a convenience shop. And I can buy different types of bread. If I don't want to end up in my body formation, okay? I can buy rye bread, I can buy wholemeal bread, okay? These are all options which the local baker does not offer, okay? They are very busy shifting coal, but they're not looking at where the ship is going. They stick together. So rather than conflict, which destroys business, they stick together no matter what. A little bit like marriage. Especially, I'm getting close to the 20-year anniversary. You tend to decide to stick together no matter what. The honeymoon is long over. And they are open to change. They're not afraid of change. They do not ignore change, neither resist it. They are open to it. Okay? Sometimes they even try to preempt it, to be ahead of the change. Okay? So these are, a lot of research, the three main qualities that help family businesses survive. Unfortunately, I do not find them in a lot of family businesses, or if I find them in pockets here and there, which is why we're doing this training session. So as I said, family businesses have the power to sustain, okay? They have the power to build enterprises that are sustained for generations, and their view many times is generational, okay? They are not like a CEO of a public company. He's only interested what the results are going to be at the end of this quarter or at the end of this year, or, for his tenure, best it's 3 years or 5 years, They're interested that their business is there and it's creating value for their son, for their grandchild, and so on and so forth. So they're here for the long haul, for the long game, okay? And that is why they have the power to sustain. They have the power to allow their business to reach its full potential, because they take a long-term view to their business and the way they generate value. And that is a huge plus even for the economy, okay? There are a lot of examples of projects done by bigger companies who were axed, not because the project or the business model was wrong, but because someone did not have the patience to allow it to grow. It reminds me, I spent yesterday evening potting things like it was like a Father's Day activity with my daughter. And we potted some flowers, and we potted whatever. My daughter watered them. She said, "Okay, Papa, let me go and drink, and then we'll see the flowers." No, it doesn't work that way. It takes just a bit more time. Many a times in the corporate world, although that was a funny anecdote, we get that, okay? We just get that. Miracles take a little bit more time. And family businesses normally work down that way. Normally they do not have shareholders, private shareholders breathing down their neck, requiring immediate results. And that is obviously a great benefit also for the economy. However, as I said, they have the power to destroy. And the biggest issue here is many times linked to conflict that is not kept under containment by governance, for example, by governance structures. So it goes out of proportion. Governance structures give businesses a system of checks and balances. Okay? Without it, and this is a plus side then that we find in bigger businesses who are not family business, who are in the corporate world, there is a governance structure, a system whereby power is distributed. Power of delegation between shareholder and the board of directors. Power between the board of directors and the CEO, who is responsible at the day and reports to the board of directors, and the direction given to him or her by the board of directors. In family businesses, it can spiral out of control, especially because you have a situation that who is creating the rules is, at the end of the day, the executioner. Okay? So you have a bit of a conflict of interest there. Okay? So the ability and the skill to manage, to balance out power, responsibility, control, and to manage conflict is one of the key skills in not destroying value within the family business. And you immediately realize that there is a problem when you meet family owners and family managers and they constantly speak in the singular. I, and there is never us, we, the business, whatever. You realize that there is a huge problem. They haven't realized they are on the same boat. And if everyone is rowing in whatever direction, no wonder this boat is turning around 360 degrees and never reaching any type of destination. I like to view family businesses. I'm a simple man. You know, when my wife tells me you have to follow this recipe and it has more than 3 or 4 ingredients, this is not made for me. You know, we have Paul Borchonace from Elia Caterers here. I'm sure they do things which are more elaborate than 3 or 4 ingredients. So in my case, I can only remember 3 ingredients. All right. So, and in my case, I believe that the main 3 ingredients that make family businesses and make them as a distinguishable element from other types of businesses are these 3 different ingredients: individuals, relationships, and systems. Individuals. It is in family businesses more than other types of business where an individual or a small amount of individuals can have an immense impact on the business. In larger business corporations, it is rarely the case, okay? Or we have unique situations, okay? Whilst in family businesses, owners, or if it is a single owner or a very limited amount of people who are leading the family business, they have a huge impact on the business. And then when I speak impact, I mean impact on its performance, on its culture, on the way it operates, on what investments to do, on the business model, you name it. Relationships are even more deep. In the corporate world, I work with Joe Gerardo. We're not related. We go in the morning. We hate each other. We spend next to each other because we have to 8 hours a day. The evening comes, and until the following morning, I don't need to think about Joe Gerardo anymore. We're brothers. We're sisters. We're working together. The relationships are multidimensional. They're more complex, okay? In the morning, I'm meeting my brother as a fellow director on the family business. In the afternoon, I'm meeting him because he handles finance and I handle sales, and we have an issue and we have to solve it. In the evening, we're meeting because our mother has her birthday. Okay? The same 2 people, different relationship, they are multidimensional. So there things can get very complex. Spaghetti locked, interlocked, okay? And systems, sorry. Systems, I do not mean just operational systems. I very much want to focus on cultures. There are a lot of systems in family business which are not written, coded, but everyone knows they exist. Okay? Okay? The owner doesn't like that, okay? Okay? Time is extremely important. Desk pulita. Right? These are all cultures, and obviously I'm using stupid examples, but you understand the drift, hopefully, that there are cultures and systems which are more important in family businesses because they shape everyone's behavior. And they do it many times in a way that the people do not even realize. They become part of the culture. Okay? Let us have a closer look at each one of them, because they are very important in us understanding family businesses and what they are made of. Individuals. As I said, more than any other type of business, family business, be it a single owner or a small number of individuals, have huge power, but they have the ability to influence the business at a larger scale than other businesses. They have the power to fire staff, obviously within the legal boundaries, to change business strategy, to sell the business if they want. So they truly have a huge impact on the business. And because it's so, it gets personal. Many a times, the biggest problem family businesses have is, first of all, to distinguish what is personal and what is business. Because they are so much emotionally involved in the business, many a times, in the worst of situations, you realize that they do not even have separate bank accounts. Big, massive red flag, okay? But beyond that, it is many a times the family business is an embodiment of the personal character of the family business leader or leadership, okay? Which makes it so personal. And because it is personal, it takes up the shape and the form momentum of the leader. The leadership is conservative, the business ends up being conservative. The leadership is a risk taker, the family business normally ends up being a risk taker, okay? If the business is open for change, the business is dynamic and innovative, and vice versa, okay? This is extremely important, this element, when it comes to generational change, when we speak about succession planning. Because generational change, since it's personal, one of the first questions people involved in the business will ask is, but will the son and daughter who will be leaving the business want the same things out of the business that his father wanted? Because it's very personal, okay? And if he will want different things, what will he or she want? And how will that change impact me as a manager, as an employee, whatever, okay? So that is a different dimension that comes directly with family businesses, okay? Because it is so personal. Relationships. This is where it becomes muddily interesting. So I split relationship yet in another 3 subcategories. We have the family, the business, and the ownership, because sometimes the ownership and the family can be distinct, okay? So, although in a conventional business, one can have very clear boundaries between professional and personal relationship. I mentioned the example with Joe Gerard. I'm mentioning him because he's in front of me and a friend of mine. So he won't have a word with me after saying, why did you mention me? We have a professional relationship. It's nothing personal. So the relationship is very clear. It has a clear dimension, okay? As I said, in family businesses, the relationships are three-dimensional, are multi-dimensional. So on one hand, you have family relationships, the relationships within a family. Forget the business so far. And I mean, you all have experiences of family. They can get very emotional. Many a times so emotional that they stop being rational. Okay? And when relationships are very emotional and connected emotionally, there is where there is fertile ground, a lot of fertile ground for conflict, for misinterpretation, for some sort of revenge, for issues that are being fought today but have their root causes coming, I don't know, some 2 generations down the line. Because your father, did this to my father some 60 years ago. All right? I've been, unfortunately, in these conversations. So there is that dimension. Then we have the business dimension. Now, the business dimension in itself has to be structured. Okay? There has to be some meritocracy, some hierarchy, some control. Okay? And you start realizing that with this, there is already some conflict here. Okay? Here is purely emotional, here is more rational. And then we have the ownership. The ownership is where il-Kenwood ngħidlu, all right? You bring all the things together, and a lot of things come to a head, right? Because the ownership is a mixture of a lot of emotions, what the business needs, that has to be sorted in saying who will be leading the business, who has the right to decide, who has the right to influence, who will be persuading, who will be deciding, who will have voting rights, so on and so forth. And you can imagine, if we do not get things right, here you can have a real Kenwood, a kawlata, one of those which will remain sticky and you'll never get out of. So these 3 dimensions of a relationship are, and getting them right, as we will see later on in the model, is what, at the end of the day, in a very basic way, will make or break a family business. And hence, the complexity of relationship. Putting together family emotions, business hierarchy, and owner power, it makes things difficult, and decisions, and the process until we arrive at a decision, for someone who is not really into family business and has experienced this, can seem a lot of waste of time and can seem funny into what people would have to go through in order to take certain decision, or tragic, if not funny. It feels many a times, and I say this wearing the hat of, now many a times as a family business advisor, it feels like you're walking on thin ice or walking into a minefield, okay? My daughter, she just did her first Holy Communion, and she got this game, You have to do an operation on a body, and you have to really touch the right nerve or the right bone, and if you pick the right bone out, or the wrong nerve or the wrong artery, it goes, Many times dealing with family businesses when it comes to relationship feels a lot like that, okay? Because the complexity can be staggering, and since we have a multi-dimensional relationship, and frustration can blow out of proportion, okay? And there are a lot of risks involved which need to be mitigated. Will this result into family members not speaking to each other anymore? Will this result into the family business fracturing and then having people going separate ways? Will it require that the business is stalled because you have someone who wants to remain in the business while someone else wants to sell out? Okay? And the single decision or a process done wrongly, okay, can have repercussions for years, if not generations. Okay? So we have to be very, very careful. Sometimes, although I preach change and I preach moving forward, there are stages that going too fast is not advisable. And then we'll have a look at systems. Well, a family in itself, forget the business, is already a system in itself, okay? There are already a number of intrinsic rules written in a family. I mean, even a normal family, someone is taking care of the bills, someone is taking care of the shopping, someone is taking care of, I don't know, children's education, someone is taking care on getting work, meant to get work done in the house. You know, that's already a system in itself. Obviously, extending that into a business means that many a times that culture is extended in a family business. And I always use this anecdote. When I walk into a family business, the first idea, in fact, it's the first question I ask any family business when I walk to, is, where do you meet? Where? It's not a complex question, come on. Where do you meet? And many a times I get blank faces. What do you mean, where do we meet? Yes, when you need to discuss something, where do you meet? And normally I get blank faces because they have space for everything. Many times even for the family dog who comes to the business. But they don't have a place where they meet. Which tells you a lot about the system. Who takes decisions then? How do they discuss them? What interaction is happening? My first family business, who are still my clients today, have a massive billiard table at the back of the business. They have their back office, but they have a massive billiard table. And they used to bring the dog as well, a huge German Shepherd dog, you know. Not really welcoming, but well, he was there. But they didn't have a single place where to meet. And then obviously realize that decisions are being taken. But I don't agree with that, and why did we do that, and why did we decide that? Yes, obviously. Systems, at the very core, obviously, without going to the higher level of systems and processes and information flows and so on and so forth, really shape, due to the culture many a times, really shape what happens in the family and in the family business. And there are 4 system dynamics at a generic perspective that are in place. Please take this from me if you do not remember anything from what I said. It's no problem. I'm not, I'm not teaching the gospel here, so don't worry. It's this. The context may be different, but so far, in 11 years dealing with family businesses, there is nothing, no issue, no problem, no difficulty, which is unique to that family business. The context may be different, the players may be different, but a lot of problems, I would say all problems, have the same root causes. So one of the systems is a lot of family businesses do, unfortunately, the same mistake. Okay? The bottom line mistakes. The bottom line is that many family businesses have more in common than you think. The biggest mistake is that they do not know. They do not know it. All right? It takes persons like me and others, obviously, who run from one family business to the other on the same day and hear the same problems day in, day out. Okay? And so there is a lot of space, a lot of learning that can be done if family businesses come together, share experiences, and learn from each other. Teamwork. Family businesses, more than other businesses, due to the interconnected nature of family businesses, okay, need to realize that they rely on each other more than other types of businesses. Even if you are at the point that you are the founder of the business and you want to pass on your business to your sons and daughters, you depend upon them. They may want to go into the business, but they may not give a hoot about it. And you can't do anything about it. So teamwork is of pivotal importance. You can't go anywhere. You can't bring forward this business without making sure that everyone is on board. That means that to lead a family business or be involved in a family business, there is the art of the big C. Compromise. You don't compromise, you're going nowhere. Well, I'm a married man, I should know about compromise, come on. I mean, it's all what marriage is all about. And compromise in a way to make decisions that are of mutual benefit. So family businesses that are run by leaders who are not self-serving, but they are of service to the common good, to reach mutual benefit. Notwithstanding all the teamwork, we still are individuals. And there is an element of competing interests that still has to be managed. And the more the business grows, and the more people from the family get involved in it, the more diverse and different most probably will be those competing interests. And so the more we have to structure ourselves to manage those competing interests. And this is the generic model, especially when businesses, family businesses grow. Balancing what the business needs, the structure, what the owners need, and what the family system needs, because you could have a family system which is distinct from the owners, okay? And having structures in place like family councils, family constitutions, obviously the governance of the business, which we are very familiar with, which need to come together in a very small space, why it makes it difficult, and why normally it is very difficult to get it right without external help. And I'm not pitching here, okay? This is just a fact. Unintended consequences. Just like my daughter's game of the operation and the bzz, bzz, bzz. You would think that you're changing things and you're doing something to better everyone's life, and you are surprised because there are unintended consequences. Ħali dak. If I were to get a dime every time I hear that. Yes, because since our relationship are so interlocked, intertwined, and there is a history that goes, I don't know how many generations, it is extremely possible, if not expected, that you will have these unintended consequences. And really, in family business, it is rarely ever the case that you change one thing, and that single change, you know, I have a family business here in Valletta where we just did a door between the kitchen and the bar, a damned door. It created havoc, okay? A door. We didn't, I don't know, turn the business 360 degrees. You will have unforeseen consequences, and you have to expect them and take them into your stride and see how to adapt to them, okay? To convince. We will speak about persuasion and the art of persuasion in in other sessions. So, to start concluding, family businesses, if looked at, at a distance, if you're not into them, they may seem to be very complicated if you look at them at a superficial level. Because things are rarely what they seem at the top. You have to dive in. You have to be one hell of a diver, okay, to work with family businesses. You have to go to the root cause. And sometimes the root cause is deep in the depths of hell, okay? Because conflicts have long history, and what I am trying to do in this course is to help everyone and skill as much people who want to listen at how to handle families and businesses together and focus on their problems and maintain a good balance so that we do not just keep healthy family businesses, but we also keep healthy families, which will benefit society, I believe, in the long term. One final thing. What to consider before you are thinking to ask anyone to join your family business from the family, or you yourself are thinking about joining a family business. Asking yourself, what is motivating you to join that family business? Is it because you think it's an easy ride to glory? Are you ready for the commitment? Family businesses are a lot like that lyric in Hotel California, the song. You can check out, but you can never leave. It's very difficult to leave a family business because you can resign from your position, but you can never leave your family. So it requires a commitment, a life mission. Do you have any significant experience outside? Or all you know, all you have experienced is this business? Consider doing experiences out there. It will help you and your family business. Is the relationship, the personal relationship about the family, amongst the family leaders, a healthy one? Or you are entering a war zone? And what role will you have? Are they just inventing a role? biex jalqulek ħalqek, ħallejtuk xi ħaġa? Or will you truly have a role where you can add value and people will respect you for the value you are giving that family business? And this is what we will be doing in the next 6 sessions. We will be discussing the various powers businesses have. They have the power to design how am I going to set up my business, what ownership structure, what legal structure is it going to have. And we will see the benefits, the pros and cons of each legal structure. Every time I start explaining this to clients, they tell me, jien ma nifhimx inti li l-aħjar waħda. It's not about which is the best one. There are pros and cons about each one of them, and you have to see which one fits in your circumstance. They have the power to decide, so they need to see how these decisions are taken, hence governance. They have the power to value. And so, if we want to create value, we need to see how we're going to go about it, hence strategy. They have the power to inform, communication. How is information being circulated in family businesses? And are we using it to take decisions, or do we take decisions because heck? This morning I woke up very happy. Or the sun is shining. Are we a data-driven organization? And to be a data-driven organization, do we have the data? Or it's 2022, we're still looking at accounts of 2014, when the world from 2014 has changed 7 or 8 times. Transfer, succession planning, obviously. How we will be looking at succession planning. So, that was my presentation. Before we move to the panel, if anyone has any question, I don't know if people who are watching online can also put in questions. If they can, obviously, I'll be happy to answer. But if there is anyone here who has any question, comment, criticism, we're a nation, so we're afraid of criticism. If you don't agree with what I said, I have no problem. We can also go for a drink about it. Please feel free. All right? If there isn't anyone, we can proceed to have the panel discussion. Obviously, the panel today is a mixed panel, so we have 2 persons representing family businesses. Obviously, we're speaking about family businesses. We've talked about it, now you see the real thing. So we have Joanna and Paul Bosch-Bonacci. Paul Bosch-Bonacci, obviously, his surname gives him away, comes from Elia Caterers. Joanna comes from Vivian. And then we have Joe Gerada, the family business office regulator. And we have Carl Herrera from Malt Enterprise, who are gently sponsoring also these lectures. Okay? So I think we can move to set up things so that we will have the panel discussion based on what all the stupidities I just said. Please, Joe, Carl, Joanna, Paul. Good. Joanna. All right. So, I would like to start first with the stars, all right? The family business people. So you heard me. Oh, well, at least I'm hoping that you heard me. Okay?
We listened.
We listened, yes. You listened. Yes, because a lot of people hear, but they don't listen. I spoke, when I spoke about family businesses, I spoke about the 3 ingredients: individuals, relationships, and systems. So taking your personal experience of your family business, okay? Which one of those do you think was most important? Let us assume they're all important, but which one do you believe was most important for your family business? Joanna.
Well, as you said, the individuals and the family relations to the business, as well as systems, the 3 of them are important. And you can't have systems if there's no relationship,
Yeah.
basically. And I believe that you can't base your family business on an individual. We're here for the long term. And so we shouldn't be talking about the individual, but the team, the board, the leadership team, the executive committee, for example. And then, of course, when you have the family relationship with the business, you can't have everybody doing their own thing or, taking their own decisions. When it comes to family relationships and the relationship to the business, I believe that family relations should not get involved in the management per se. I think the two should be clear and distinct. And then that is where you then have the guidelines, like, for example, the family charter, which is really important, especially when, as you mentioned, more people get involved from one generation to the other. So, like our company, it was my father who founded the business, and we're 5 siblings. And of course, with 5 siblings, there are a number of children now. And so we did create a family charter based on transparency, based on equity, which is very important, seeing the the dynamics of families today. You know, you might have children who are adopted. You might have children that have disabilities. You might have children, you know, coming, an extended families. So all this has to be put into perspective. And as I said, equity is very, very important. And apart from that, of course, diversity, as I mentioned, diversity, be it in religion, because sometimes you might have these sort of, you know, diversity in sexual orientation, because these can all affect the emotions within a family, and inclusion. So I think those are the values that a family business really needs to take into consideration, especially, you know, to carry on from one generation to the other. This year we celebrate 70 years of, as we say, putting the patient first, because we are a specialized healthcare company. So I think these systems, and also we have an employee handbook. Now, if there are people, family members that are actually working or are employees of the company, then they should have no privileges over the other non-family members, because you cannot, what the non-family member will say, oh, I have no chance in hell of, you know, getting a promotion or being able, because there's always, you know, there's always somebody who's blood related who's going to supersede, and you can't rely on that. You can't rely on that, because you always have to have the best people doing the best jobs. And I think as a family, then families all have one thing in common at the end of the day, that you agree that it's for the long term, and that whatever you do is always for the best of the company, so that it can provide, you know, for the family. Okay. So that is basically my take on this.
Paul.
So, this working? So, all right, man. To answer to your question, I think the dynamics of this question should be seen at which level, at which stage the business is. We are a third-generation business, and so this business was started by my grandfather. Okay. So I think at that point it was about the individual, about the person who dreamt, who wanted to work, who had a vision. He put all his energy. He put up a big family, 14 kids, 11 of which survived at that time, because 3 of them had passed away at a very young age. So at the time it was about the individual. I believe when you are starting something on your own, the energy that you put into it, it has to be an individual energy, and that energy is translated to others. Okay, it's transferred to others. I can see that on my own projects, because I've started projects of my own, and the energy you put there is different, you know, because it's the vision that is shared only by you, and maybe my grandfather's wife, because my grandmother was also. She was one of the backbones of the business. She worked, She raised the kids, but she had also nannies because she had to work at the business. Trying to put up a family of 11 kids, I don't think it was easy, especially with a grandfather like mine who was very driven, very energetic, very demanding, very disciplined. And so I think at that point, the dynamic of the business, the importance was about the individual. Then the second generation came, and 5 of his sons took over, bought the business. And I think at that point, it was about the relationship between brothers. I still remember looking back, it was very strange, very different on how they did the meetings. When you mentioned the business, the meeting room, I laughed for a moment because decisions were taken on the working bench. We're a catering business. They all had their specialization. One of my uncles, who is my mentor, took like the business side of things, and who was the business driving force. 2 of them were taking care of the coffee shop because it was our core business at first, and one of my uncles was the operations manager, and my father was the artistic person who took care of the cake decoration, the ideas and everything. But together, they had a special. It wasn't a brotherly relationship. It was more of a business dream, and they fought a lot. They argued a lot. When I say fought a lot, I'm distinguishing between arguments and fightings, because fights were fights. But they had a vision. They wanted to make the business grow, and they managed to do that. And then they all had a lot of children. We're the only family with 2 kids, me and my sister. In between those 5 brothers, not all my uncles and aunties, and there are about 24 siblings. Jibri, shareholders, Allah yafid. Our shareholders meetings are like a small confirmation party.
The catering of engagement.
Said catering. So at that point, at the dynamics and the second generation, I think it's about the family. Third generation, when things start getting complicated, because yes, a family business gets complicated, I think then the importance is the structure. So if I had to pinpoint right now where our business, where we stand right now, it's about structure. And I remember a time where we started the succession planning. We didn't do it on our own. We had someone who is not a family member, and we introduced management that are not part of the family. We had a family charter, we had discussions, we had arguments, we had ideas put on the table, we discussed. But even though you put your head together, because ultimately there's your pride, there's your investment, there's the energy you want to put in. Luckily also we were filtered naturally. Some of my cousins decided not to be part of the business. They studied or they got married and they had children, some traveled, whatever. And others, like me, we decided that our place is in the business. But looking in hindsight, what we started about 10 years ago, the succession planning, and a very structured succession planning where we are responsible, but we have to we respond to the board. There is a family charter. Everyone knows, and it's still going on. I was made managing director 2 Septembers ago during COVID. Yeah, and this structure, even nowadays, is a tool that helps us together take decisions, because one of the problems in the family business, as you mentioned, for example, is me, how am I going to tell my cousin that we should change the way we're working, for example? Or imagine if they couldn't talk and criticize me because I'm the bloody managing director, you know? So, but there is a structure, there are meetings, there's a meeting room and the board meeting room, there are There are areas where we go there and just chit-chat, but there are areas and moments where we talk business. And one of the culture changes that we obviously had to learn how to do. At a point, we stopped discussing families and family issues and this and that and that. Nowadays, we only talk business. And ironically, I think the family, I remember at a time where I wasn't even close to my cousins. I mean, I had school friends and music and everything. Today, I'm more close to some of my cousins because of the business. So, ironically, the business got us even closer to each other, but not only in a business, because we all also know we respect each other to a level that we know that even if some of us are suffering, even the business is going to suffer. I had my support through some dark times that I had, even through my cousins, and the support was not only a family support, it was also a business support, because we were there to stick together and bring the business forward.
Joe, you heard all this. What's your take on it as a family business office regulator?
First of all, listening to everything today gives me a sense of pride, because finally we got to delivering this project, which we've been working on as a committee. And it's been a pleasure listening to you, Silvan, the practical way in which you have delivered your ideas and experience, most of all. And I think what I really liked when we started discussing what we're going to try and project out there was the sense of experience that you can bring into all of this. However, Silvan, as you said originally, the main characters of all of this are the family businesses who are with us today. And while listening today, I realize I know perhaps Paul a bit more than I know Joanne. I met Joanne today. But it's very clear that we have two different family businesses, both very successful in their own ways, with very different dynamics probably. Probably they took very different roads, which both led to success, but in their own ways. And we've heard about struggles, we've heard about fights. So what I'm hoping is that through these lectures, okay, we're going to manage to pass at least the message out there. And when myself and Silvan were discussing the format of these lectures, I said it's very important to bring in the family businesses themselves, because I think what theory we can try and discuss and explain really culminates in the experiences of the family businesses themselves. What I hope out of all of this is that all of those out there hearing us and listening to these lectures, to these sessions, will achieve the success that these family businesses have achieved in their own ways. It takes time, as you were explaining, Silvan. Things don't happen overnight. It takes a lot of effort. It takes changing cultures. It takes putting your trust into people you don't even know, because when you bring in, as Paul was saying, external managers, external advisors, sometimes, obviously, you have to start from somewhere. Within 5-10 years' time, I'm very sure that all of these family businesses listening to us and who will put their trust into an advisor, into a managing director, a CEO, will look back and say, okay, some things worked, some things have not worked. But it is those things that have worked that will bring the business to its success. And this is why we're here today. So I encourage everyone who's listening out there to continue listening to us. We're going to try, as you know, Silvan, to keep this format, to bring in as many family businesses to share their experiences. Because I know that when you look at someone and say, we're going through something similar, it's much, much easier to listen and to try and understand and to be encouraged to take the steps that perhaps other people have taken before you. So I encourage everyone who's listening to keep following us, and I congratulate these family businesses. I really wish you well. I hope that the success that you have brought to your business will continue being transferred for generations to come.
Carl, multi-enterprise, besides obviously helping financially this activity to actually take place, I know that Malta Enterprise obviously looks at family business as very much one of the motors of our economy, as an agent for economic growth, for change, for investment, so on and so forth. What is Malta Enterprise take in the sense as how you believe that the quantum leap that family business can do to continue pushing forward Malta's economy?
So maybe I take a step back.
Okay.
As most of you know, we're an agency that promotes investments. We're there to create economic value. And it's practically very similar whatever type of business you're discussing. So if you're discussing startups, you're helping a startup to grow. Some will make it, some won't make it. What we realized a number of years back now, that one of our main pillars was family businesses. All of us probably have touched with a family business somehow or another.
Yep.
Maybe a brother, an uncle, or somehow. And what we realized at that point in time, even through government, is that there was nothing actually addressing some of the problems which family business face. Now, obviously, as we've been hearing, there are different types of family business. Some start as a sole entrepreneur, then he brings maybe some family members along. Some start with 2 brothers, 2 cousins. So the dynamics can be very different. But they all, as they start to grow, add value to the economy. And I think what was missing and what we're trying to address, even with the help of, obviously, with the family business offices, trying to put together a group of measures, maybe even existing measures that are not directly related to family business, to help those family businesses address the issues they encounter during their evolution. Obviously, we won't save everybody. It's impossible. Like, as not all startups will make it, unfortunately, not all family business will make it to the 2nd, 3rd generation. But what we hope to do is to retain as much of those that can make it as possible. So where before maybe there was no mechanism to help a family business starting of succession planning, now we have mechanisms to do that. Okay, they don't, we don't have a magic wand, but the fact that we promote a discussion and the fact that we promote a possibility of a form of assistance, a partial financial support, that helps people think. What we will never be able to do is, fund it 100%. There always has to be a willingness of people to move forward. And finally, we all do that to retain value for the country, because a successful family business that doesn't find a way to continue beyond a generation, that's lost value. Mm-hmm. And as we know, anybody who studied business, it's better to grow on what you have than to start afresh. So I think that is the key element that we try to push forward as Malta Enterprise.
Thank you. One last final telegraphic reply, Paul and Joanna. Well, there are dark clouds on the horizon. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? We thought that we were out of the woods as the pandemic was over, and then now we have inflationary issues, monetary policy is tightening, interest rates are on the rise, costs are on the rise. You're in the food business, raw materials are increasing, wages are increasing, we have a very tight labor market. As I've shown in the presentation, family business that made it because they were open to learn, they stuck together whatever the challenge, and they were open to change. Considering what's on the horizon, what do you think will be the key important out of the 3 most important elements for your family business to survive in the circumstances? Paul and Joanna.
The bank.
The bank.
That's a tough one. Yes, it was only last week where we had this discussion when we're trying to see and foresee and trying to guess, because, for example, in the catering business, one of the things that you do is you sell a service that
2 years in advance.
2 years in advance, so you have to foresee prices and everything. I believe that one of the things that is highly important is that when the board is taking a decision or the management are taking decisions, no one points fingers.
Sticking together then.
Sticking together is highly important because we've seen it during COVID. I mean, we survived COVID. We didn't fire one single person. We're there together. I think one of the, in some way, COVID was also a blessing. It was a learning curve, made us realize how important our business is, because sometimes you take things for granted. You go, you know, like how important our employees are, because it's not just us. It's also 70 other full-time families with us and part-timers, you know. And so I think when something that you really realize is the importance of sticking together and be fast changing. I remember when COVID came, the first Easter, we thought it was going to be a disaster, because we had to close our shops. But we are fast, we were responsive, went online, we were selling through our e-commerce, and I remember the first management account meeting that we had to see and some other and take stock of what happened. We're quite surprised. And there is a moment when you look at your cousins and the management and the board, and you feel a certain
sense of pride.
Sense of pride. And it's not just pride, it's also a sense of gratefulness. Like, we did this together, you know? And it might sound romantic, but in reality, that's what it is. I mean, we go through seasons every year. Right now, we're in the top season. I mean, we have a backlog of work from postponements and everything. We have weddings galore and people wanting to party, and, you know, like, right now, if you come to our workshop, it's crazy. You know, everyone's running into each other, and we don't have time for meetings, but we have to do the meetings and everything. And I know that in a month's time, we'll look back and say, hey, process, you know, we did it. You know, like we did last year and the year before, and then you start forecasting. So even though it sounds a little bit romantic, but sticking together in these situations is very important. But also, you can't do this without, I mean, I always say this, I wasn't born a businessman. You know, my job till 5 years ago, I was a cake decorator with an interest in marketing and an interest in the business, but I had to learn my way up and up. I had to learn where I had to put my head, you know, like some of my cousins still are in the workshops, some changed. But we are ready to make the changes, and we are still making the changes that are needed for the good of the business.
Joanna.
So, yes, learning, I think if you stop learning, see your employees, see yourself, you know. I think that will always give you, you know, an advantage over others, always being the top of the game, let's say. So learning, for us, we support and we develop people, especially if they're interested in looking at education within our, within the sphere that we're working in, or as well if it's part of our vision, or they want to be part of our vision. And when it comes to bad times or difficult times, like we've had with the COVID situation, and we've also had now the war, and we all have supply issues, and we all have rising costs. We work a lot with the government through tenders. Obviously, we can't change our prices to the government, but we're getting suppliers who, although committed to keep the same price over the the period of the tender are now saying, you know, we're really sorry, but we have to increase this cost. So this is a big dilemma for us. So yeah, we have to see ways of trying to overcome this. But I think when you said, are you open to change? And we had it's very important. You can't sit on your laurels and just, you know, you need to be innovative all the time. You need to assess the environment, what's happening, the competitors, how's the market going to be in 5 years' time. And in fact, regarding to this, we had taken a strategic decision because 2 years ago, Vivian Corporation wasn't the company it was today. So we had healthcare and we had fast-moving consumer goods. And we were medium-sized, let's say, in the fast-moving consumer goods. But we started seeing that if you're not one of the big boys, you're not going to survive here. So we said, 2 years ago, we said, we need to divest this business. We had over 120 employees. We came to an agreement with a major player, one or two, and we transferred our FMCG business to another company. And I'm very proud to say that we also managed to save all jobs of the employees today. We're a specialized healthcare company with more focus and more vision. And we're 58 employees, and we're a smaller yet much stronger company. And so I think my message is, you know, don't be afraid of doing really drastic reorganizations, because at first we had, of course, family members like thinking it was the biggest disgrace, as if it was the biggest failure. You know, but we weren't a failure. It's just that we had to treble the turnover to survive, and which is very difficult to do. So we thought, right, this is the time, let's do this restructuring. And today, I'm happy to say that, you know, we really, really focused. And if we didn't do this change, we wouldn't be in this strong position we are today. So, yes, we are open to change. Of course, many discussions, you know, and a lot of, you know, ups and downs, etc.
You have a meeting room, right?
We have a meeting room. Okay. Well, a lot of this was also done online, mind you. So a lot of this was done online.
Okay.
Because of COVID. But once we took a decision, then we stuck to it. And I think that's very important, that as you have to stick to the decisions, because you don't want your competitors to get, you know, wind that maybe not everybody's in agreement with this, or the employees, you know, or all other stakeholders, your suppliers, etc. Because people can use it against you at the end of the day, and you know, you might show instability. So it's very important, I think, that you stick to, once a decision is made, then everybody needs to support it and work towards that goal. So I think that's my take on open to change.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions on what we've heard? Yes, please.
So earlier, both of you mentioned that you have family charters within your business. Now, family charter at the end of the day is a social agreement. How do you enforce that within the family to make sure that everyone's in line, and before anyone makes a rash decision, they always go back to the family charter to ensure that they're going in line with what's been agreed to? Right. Thanks.
And basically the family charter was drawn up together, of course, you know, so everybody was in agreement to the last detail. As I said, it's very embracing, so everybody, you know, would be happy, and they could see that these measures are going to guarantee, or somewhat guarantee, of course, the future of the company. How do we enforce it? Basically, we have, you know, the very regular meetings, you know, and I must say, I mean, luckily we haven't had many many issues about it, because it's quite straightforward, if you know what I mean. I mean, we're not going to create jobs for somebody who needs a job or has nothing to offer to the company, you know. I think that's very clear. Just because you're a family member, you know, and there's no job available for you, we're not going to create a job for you unless you have a disability where, you know, work will give you, what's the word that I'm trying to get? Dignity, you know, and they can't find somewhere else, or, you know, the person will benefit a lot. That yes, that with open arms, and we'll go for it. But and I think these are made very clear. Then if there is somebody, as I said before, who has a lot to offer, if it's about the current business or something pertaining to the vision we have and where we want to go, then there could be discussions with the board, which is at the end of the day the representatives of the family.
Okay.
So.
Anyone else? All right. I don't know if that was a signal, but we can take that as a cue. There are some refreshments downstairs. We can have a chat as well. One of the ideas when we started these sessions were that they were going to be completely recorded and set online. We were still obviously very much infatuated by the COVID setup at the time. Then, as we discussed, especially with the chamber, they said, let's have at least the first and last session in this format, so a hybrid format. And the idea is that for those that do the effort to come to Valletta, stay in this nice building. I always like looking at these paintings of old people with mustaches, to network. Because at the end of the day, a lot of problems, as I said, that family business face, although in different contexts, are very, very, very similar. And please take it from me, because I spend 8, 9, 10 hours a day listening to problems from family businesses. So I think I know a bit what I'm saying there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.